Hello, welcome to Play Ratings. Today we have a new guest. Xavier and I will be reviewing the Palace nil Sunderland nil game at Sellers Park. Again, please remember to like and subscribe. We are on the road to 10,000 subs. We really appreciate all of your comments, likes, and subscriptions. So again, drop a like, make a comment at the end of the video. We appreciate it. Unfortunately, Lou is had some technical problems, and D, as you may or may not know, is away on holiday. Well deserved. So there we have Xavier. Xavier, how you doing today?
I'm good, Dad. Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Your quick thoughts on the game yesterday. I'll pop up the formation. What do you think about the game overall yesterday?
Yeah, so I wasn't able to watch it live actually. So I had my own, football match. It's part of my Saturday league, so I was only able to watch it today. Saw a little bit of the first half. That's all I could really see. Was checking my phone and while I was playing and saw that it ended 0-0. Um, but yeah, being able to watch today, I thought it was a fine enough performance. To be honest, I thought we created, some decent chances. Maybe could created more openings. You would have liked to see maybe more clear cut openings. Along the lines of the Pino chance, which I'm sure we'll get into, against
Right.
the, newly promoted side at home. But, I thought, they didn't have a shot on target. So I thought the back five, well, six, with Henderson as well, I thought they were top. Again, that's now 5 clean sheets in 7 matches, since the start of the season, which I thought was great. So it's good to see, that continuing. And I thought we were a bit unlucky, if the Pino chance goes in, goes the other side of the post. I think, it ends up being, comfortable to potentially even 3-0 win. So I think it's one of those that happens over the course of a season, where you have the better, of a match, but you just don't get all 3 points. Which, is definitely frustrating, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. We're up to, 15 unbeaten now. Just go
Yeah.
again, on Tuesday with Millwall, and then, again at the weekend, I think we are away to West Ham. So yeah, I thought it was all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on that. I'll take the point. Obviously 15 on the feet is a brilliant. So I popped up the formation. Obviously, we have our normal 3-4-2-1. But interestingly, Sunderland under a manager I really rate under Labrie set up in a 4-3-3. So the midfield part I want to kind of talk about before we get into the individual, because I thought that the Diarra, Xhaka, Siddiqui midfield three didn't really do a lot. I thought Siddiqui was very good, but I thought Lerma and Hughes, even though Lerma didn't put in a lot of tackles, I think Lerma and Hughes did a good job of kind of negating them. What are your thoughts on like the midfield battle?
I thought we got the better of it. It's funny because the Sunderland fans, every time I felt like I heard from them, they were singing Shaka's name, with the
Yeah,
glad all over a bit.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I was watching the match and I didn't feel like he actually really did anything in the run of play. Like the only time I ever felt that I was seeing him was, over set pieces. So I think,
Yeah.
speaks to, how well our midfield did in terms of, controlling that battle. Because Shaka is um he's a top, deep lying playmaker. He's excellent, at Leverkusen, in their unbeaten season recently, just controlling the tempo and the pace of the play. And I thought he didn't really get to do that yesterday. So yeah, I thought just generally I thought we got the better of the midfield battle. I think those are some good players that Sunderland have. I think Diarra as well is a quality player. And um so yeah, I mean in terms of our promoted midfield, that's pretty good. And I thought we did a pretty good job, neutralizing, especially, Xhaka, in particular, who, is their hub, and I thought we did a good job, neutralizing it throughout the match.
Yeah, I agree. Let's start individual performances. I'll start with Dean Henderson. Real quick, no saves. You mentioned they had no shots on goal. I will credit him for good distribution. He was 28 out of 37 for 76% passing, 9 out of 18 long balls. I thought he had one long kick to Mateta that allowed him to get in on a that was cut out, but it was a nice kick. And again, third clean sheet in the Premier League, 4-7 this season. He's played really well in goal. But your thoughts on Henderson yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really have much to do. He made a couple claims from crosses. Was commanding the box. Again, I thought his distribution, like you, I thought it was good. I didn't know the exact stats, but those stats seem to match, what I thought, which makes sense. And again, it's another clean sheet. It's now the third one in 4 Premier League matches, and again, 5 in 7. In terms of the whole season for us. So yeah, I thought
Overall.
yeah, overall. So yeah, I think it was good. It's he's been just an excellent signing for us, and he's just seems to never let us down. And another clean sheet. I thought it was good. So yeah, I had to give him a 7.5 for it, even though he didn't have much to do. I just think getting a clean sheet deserves that type of rating.
No problem. We'll go next to Danny Munoz. I gave him 7.5. You gave him 8. Your thoughts on Munoz?
I thought he was I thought he was good. He did his usual, getting up and down, the right hand side, pressing high, got some good crosses in. Had a deflected cross, that Mateta was unlucky to not score from. It was a great save from the Sunderland keeper who I thought was excellent yesterday. I thought him and Pino connected pretty well. You could see, having, have some training sessions. Pino seems to know exactly, what our attacking, patterns of play are. And a big part of that is, combining with Munoz down the right. And I thought the two of them linked pretty well. And I thought, Munoz did what he always did. I think Adingra is a decent player. And, he was, the winger on that side. It didn't really have much joy out of him or Richards, who we'll get to. He had, the one cross in the first half that Ty ended up making a good block on, which again, we'll get to. But thought he was good. His usual really good performance. Just, didn't have the end product, like he has, done for us, in the past.
Yeah, I agree. Took a interesting yellow card early in the first half on Alderete. I'm not sure that ref won't rate the referee, but don't think he did a great job. But yeah, I agree with you. Had some good pressing moments during the game. Again, linked up well with Pino. Interesting how which we'll get to later, how he and Kamada switched at the beginning of the second half. So he had Kamada on his side, and they played together before. But overall, I thought it was very solid. 28 out of 34, passing 82%. As it says on the graphic there, the most duels won in the match. He won 8, 54 touches, 3 clearances, 2 recoveries. Again, overall for him, I thought very solid, which is why we gave him what we gave him. So we'll go to the other wing back, Ty Mitchell. I gave him an 8, and so did you. I'll go first. I thought Ty had an excellent game yesterday. He was 30 39 in passing, 77%, 67 touches, 2 out of 3 accurate crosses. I thought the crossing is what really impressed me. He had a great ball in that Mateta almost scored on. I believe that was in the 49th minute. Yeah, the ball that was a great switch, by the way, by Lerma. But early in the game, and it's highlighted in social media, he had a great block on a Talby shot. It was really the only shot they probably would have had on net. But I thought Ty, again, people talk about Ty as a defender, and he was very good defensively, hence a clean sheet. But I thought going forward, the crosses, again, even on the stats, I just realized he had 2 tackles the most in the game also. So I thought Ty had a great game. But your thoughts on Ty Mitchell?
Yeah, I thought he was excellent as well. And in retrospect, I think I should have marked Munoz down to a 7.5 because I think, the wingbacks, Ty was definitely the better one of the two. Not that, Munoz played poorly, but I thought
Right.
Ty was excellent yesterday. Like, I totally agree with what you're saying. The cross that you mentioned to Mateta was something that, I had marked. I thought it was a really good cross. And that block as well was an excellent block. Would have been in some real trouble, I think if, he doesn't get that block in. Definitely would have been a shot on target, potentially even a goal. So I thought he was excellent. And I think just generally, I think he's been really, really good this season. I think the rotation with Sosa, in terms of the Conference League matches, is giving
Yeah.
a little bit of rest, which I think
Yeah.
is helping him. And I think also, Sosa just being at the club, in terms of, pushing, him, Ty, to another level. I don't think, that can be overstated because I just think he's gone up a level. I thought, basically since the Community Shield, I think he's been excellent, for us this season. So, long may it continue. It's really good to see him at these levels.
Totally agree. We'll go to our captain next, Mark Gahey. Both gave him an 8. Your thoughts on Mark Gahey performance versus Sunderland?
Yeah, I mean it's the usual Mark performance, isn't it? It's just rock solid. Just I think he completed the most passes in the match, along with Max. Breaking lines with his passing. Didn't do the dribbling as much, but breaking lines with the passing. No one getting in behind, sweeping up. Winning. Yeah, I think he won one of those fouls. And the way that he does, gets, in between the ball and the attacker, takes a little
Yeah.
touch, goes down, falls over the ball, and gets called every time. But yeah, it's Mark. It's just always what he does, to be honest. So I'm not surprised. It was rock solid, and I don't remember him being caught out at any point, anyone getting behind him, anything that he did that led to any sort of danger, from Sunderland. So
Right.
yeah, I thought he was topping it. It's really just it's every week, or every match that he plays, it's just the same thing, just incredibly consistent. So yeah, another really good, performance in the type that we just expect from him at these points.
Yeah. The 75 out of 85 passes, the most successful passes. That's an 88% clip, which is amazing. 93 touches again, or 94, sorry, the most touches in the game. 2 out of 3 aerial duels, 1, 4 clearances, 6 recoveries. Again, just a really solid performance. I thought he did a really good job helping Ty out on the left side. What I want to point out is the fact that with all what's going on around him, to put in that performance against Sunderland was amazing because there's a lot of noise again. The Liverpool stuff, the leaving. He doesn't let it bother him. He claps the crowd at the end of the match. But I think the performance under the circumstances and everything that went around it was really, really good. But again, we take it for granted because 8 out of 10 is a solid, man of the match for him, and we just sometimes don't even realize it. But yeah, I thought Gahey was really, really good against the Sunderland. We'll go to one of his partners in the back three, Maxence Lacroix. I gave him 8. You gave him 8.5. You gave man of the match. I will actually go first because I thought Max was really, really solid. He had a great tackle one we won on Isidore. He had Isidore whole game as a striker, didn't get a sniff, didn't really try to move off of Lacroix and go maybe a little bit right or a little bit left. He just stayed pretty central. And I thought that really suited Lacroix. 78 passes completed in the game, which is the most in of actually, yeah, 78 was the most, actually more than Mark, but not as a high percentage as Mark. 94% passing, a block, 2 clearances, 3 recoveries. Again, the third Premier League clean sheet in 4 matches with having obviously him, Richards, and Gahey in the back. Just brilliant. Again, I think I don't underestimate Lacroix. I don't give him credit much because he just, like Mark, just solid every single game. I think a stat came out today. That was his 50th Premier League appearance for Palace, which is, that time flies. But I thought it was brilliant. But your thoughts on Lacroix versus Sunderland?
Yeah, just a lot of what you just said. I thought, again, these performances, and Richards as well, who will get to. It's just every time they're on the pitch, you just know we're going to be in a good position, just because we're just not going to concede much, if at all. In terms of chances, much less goals. So I thought he was the best of the 3 defenders in terms of the center backs yesterday, and I felt having not scored ourselves and keeping a clean sheet, I thought one of them should be the man of the match, and I just felt that he was the best defender of the 3 yesterday, and I thought all of them were good, and I just thought he was the best, which is why I gave him the man of the match. But yeah, for the reasons you were saying, just again, really good on the ball. Some great tackles, covering the one on Isidore that you mentioned. Stuck out. He didn't get a sniff. They bought on Brian Brobby, who they signed from Ajax. He came on, didn't get a sniff. It was like so it was a similar type of thing. So yeah, I just thought he was great. And again, it's getting to a point now with him, and like it is with Mark and with Richards, that we start to take these performances for granted, but they really are just an unbelievable trio. So yeah, I just wanted to give a defender man of the match, and I thought Max was the best of the defenders yesterday.
That's fair. A 0-0 defender probably deserves it, but I didn't give it to him. But we'll get to that later on. The other one member of the back 3 is Chris Richards. I gave him an 8. You gave him an 8. Do you want to go first on how you thought he did versus Sunderland?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think the main thing with Richards is he's just so dominant aerially. Like, he just wins everything in the air. Any cross that comes in, he wins. It's a set piece or it's a long throw. It's a cross. He's just so dominant in the air, and I think his ball playing is a bit underrated as well, just in terms of how he can break lines, from the back. So yeah, I thought the entire back 5 as a whole was solid. I think Max was a shade above everyone else, so I gave Richards an 8, like I gave everyone else. Just because I thought as a whole they were just a great unit, and I think they work really well together. And yeah, I thought Richards was really good again. I think Adinger got the best of him, on that cross he put in, that
one time the
shot.
Talbot chance, exactly. Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think anyone down that right hand side really got a sniff. So I thought he was great again. Just again, another top performance, and just at this point, since he's coming to the side, from Chalaba last season, it's just what we can come to expect from him these days. It's really consistent, and it's always top, and it's it's really good. It's just been a great signing, and it's really good to see how he's kicked on since he's coming to the side, and just put in these types of performances, which he did again this weekend.
We're lucky. Since we live in America, we get to see him play for the national team. But I have to admit, my only concern with him was the injuries, and that really blighted his first season under Vieira. But that aside, he's been brilliant. Yes, Sunderland, 54 out of 60 passing. You mentioned how good he was, 90% accuracy on the passing. He had 75 touches, long balls. He was, I had it right here, 4 out of 5. So you're passing. You're right. He's got so much better. 3 clearances, 3 headed, 3 recoveries, 2 out of 4 ground duels, 1. Again, the standout plays for me were defensively. He had a great recovery tackle on Isidore in the 74th minute. And before that, that new long throw thing that we have now with him and Lerma, he had that long throw that led to the Kamada shot that was well saved by.
Yes.
And I'll point it out now, the goalkeeper for Sunderland, get his name right, Roofs.
Yeah, excellent.
Brilliant. I mean, without him, we easily score 3 or 4 goals. I want to give credit to him. We rate our own players, but I got to give a 10 out of 10 for Robin. Brilliant. I actually never heard of him before he came to Sunderland, but brilliant performance by him. But going back to Richards again, that long throw led to a great attempt by Kamada. One of three that kind of stood out. But yeah, I thought those long throws are working. It worked against Villa, and I was going to go for it against Sunderland, so that's great. Move on to Will Hughes. I gave him a 7. He gave him a 7.5. I'll go quickly on the stats. 27 out of 35 passing, 2 chances created, 2 clearances, 2 recoveries. I thought that, again, I mentioned before, I thought he and Lerma did a really good job in midfield, not really allowing Siddiqui, Xhaka, or Diarra to really do much. He did give away a foul for a free kick early in the 6th minute. Slow to react to a Siddiqui run and shot from a free kick. But he looked to press the centre backs when he could. He helped create a shot for Pino. I just thought overall, I thought Hughesy with his normal, 7.5 out of 10 performance. But your thoughts on Hughes versus Sunderland?
Yeah, exactly the same. Just again, I know it's becoming a bit of a broken record. There's just so many players now on the side where you put them in, like Glasner puts them in the side. You know exactly what you're getting out of them, and Hughes is another one. Just every time he's in the side, you're getting good work, off the ball in terms of positioning, defensive discipline. You're getting some crunching tackles from him. And then that when he's on the ball, that he's going to use it well. I thought yesterday, in particular, in the first 15 minutes, the balls he was playing into JP, as well as Kamada and
Pino. Yeah,
Pino. Yeah,
yeah,
I thought it was good, and that's the kind of role that Wharton plays, when he's on the pitch. And I thought Hughes did a really good job of, being the one who, was breaking, that, additional line, from going, from midfield, into the front three. So I thought he was really good again. Just Hughesy he's great. Just every time again, like you were saying, it's just 7.5 out of 10, like bare minimum. So yeah, thought he was really good again yesterday.
I agree. I'll say we do lack Wharton's creativity, but I think there are times, and you're right. I think Hughes yesterday really did a good job of getting balls into Kamada, getting balls to Peter, and obviously getting balls to JP. He's not as creative or, as Wharton is, but he does try, and I think we need that versus a team like Sunderland without Wharton. Next, Jefferson Lerma, I gave him 6.5. You gave him a 6. I forgot who went last time. You go. Give me your thoughts on Lerma. I think got a little stick. I'm not really sure why, but But anyway, your thoughts on Lerma.
Yeah, I don't want to seem harsh by giving him a 6. I thought he was probably our worst outfield player who started, but I don't think he was necessarily bad. It's just Lerma has, I think, there are games that are meant for him, right? In terms of, who we're playing against, in terms of if they're attacking us or they're trying to sit in against us. And I think, he's much better against teams that are trying to attack us in terms of, what he's good. He's very good off ball. Very athletic, physical. He's good in the air, strong in a tackle. But misses a bit of the guile, that Morton has. And there are a lot of footballers around the world who don't have, the type of, passing ability that Adam Morton does. So it's not to say, it's not, the fact that Lerma doesn't have that, there are a lot of footballers that doesn't have it. So it's not that. It's just I just don't think yesterday was the game for him in terms of, and we didn't really have a choice. And I think, again, I don't want this to seem too harsh, but I just thought in terms of his final ball yesterday, I thought there were a couple of occasions where we would have been in with a better pass and the ball, was at Lerma's feet and he overhit the pass a couple of times or you hit it too high. I remember there was one instance where we broke their initial press pretty quickly. The ball, I think, came into JP, went out to Lerma, and he was trying to ping it out to Ty. And it was like a terrible ball. It was like 15 yards over Ty's head when we were in down the left. I thought there was another chance, I think, in the first half where, again, it was like some nice interplay around the box. Lerma tries to play in, I want to say Munoz, and it like overhit it, went out for a goal kick. And again, I don't want to be harsh on Lerma. I just think that, his passing isn't, at the level that we've come to now expect, from the usual pivot in terms of, either having Daichi there or Hughes there or Wharton there. So again, that those are very good players, and I think Jeff is a great squad member and does a lot for us. Is very versatile. I just think yesterday was not the best of his games, but I do think in terms of what he did defensively, in terms of his off ball stuff, and neutralizing the Sunderland midfield, I do want to give a shout out to that. So it's not he didn't stink up the place yesterday, and I don't want it to seem like he did. I just thought he was probably just our worst outfield player yesterday.
That's very fair, and I think you're absolutely right. I think a game like Sunderland doesn't really suit him. You're right about the passing, but funny, he only misplaced 4 passes, 24 out of 28, 86%. But the 4 they did misplace, you're going to remember because again, you're looking for tidier passing to create opportunity. He didn't, but in his defense, he did put that great ball out to Ty. that led to the cross from Mateta. So people tend to forget that, but I get it. He threw out 4 long balls, which is not his strong suit. The funny thing is, I don't think he was combative enough, if that's the right term, because he doesn't really have like a lot of defensive stats. He has, he played 69 minutes, 36 touches, only had 1 clearance, 2 recoveries, and 1 out of 2 ground duels won. He didn't, that was interesting. He wasn't really, but again, I didn't really think that Sunderland tried to play through the midfield a lot. Like I said, Xhaka wasn't really involved, or Diarra. It was really more just Siddiqui getting involved. He's probably the more creative of the 3. So it was interesting. But yeah, I got to give Lerma a credit for, again, being an important squad member. Again, he never lets us down. Yeah, people want to pick out his passing, and I understand that. He's like a creativity. But there are things in there that he does. And again, he was blocking the lines yesterday, which to his credit. He was pressing, which was important. So, credit to him yesterday on that, because that was important. Let's get to Jeremy Pino. Both gave him a 7, and he was actually the CPFC website fans man of the match. I thought, listen, it's his first start in the Premier League, and I thought the first half he really he was trying really hard. I think the ball that Kamada puts into him, he has to score that. And I'll tell you why I say that. He has time to let the ball maybe roll past him and hit it with his right foot to the near post. He actually tries to go far post, which is a much harder shot. He's not a great finisher. So I gave him, thing, but getting that position is brilliant for him. He lost 13 duels yesterday. Passing, there were times when he just spammed the ball out. It was 24 out of 33. But what I will say is he really, really, really put himself about. He really tried. He's very tidy on the ball. I can already see it as him being a much better creative player than an actual finisher on the team. You can tell it's there. He did have a great shot second half that was double blocked for the corner. I think that was the one that Kamada might have had, or maybe it's JP. Maybe JP shot. But again, I like I actually, he started out as the right-sided 10, was switched to the left-sided 10. I think he's better off on the left side where he can cut in on his right foot. I thought it was a great performance. What I will say about him again, he drives the ball forward. He's always looking to grow into the game. He never puts his head down. He's very combative. There was a play on I laugh, but Ralph's, when he goes up to Ralph's and he kind of Ralph saves the ball and he kind of like pushes him or whatever. He's niggly. I like that little part of him. But no, I thought, for his first start, it was decent. I wouldn't give him man of the match. It's fine if you did. But I thought that he grew into the game, and I think there is a definite really good player, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play more. But your thoughts on Pino?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see him develop. I think yesterday his final product wasn't, at the level that was required. Like you were saying, you definitely should have finished that chance. It's a really, really good opportunity. At the top level, to score, and he has to be bearing that. But I like how much he tries to get on the ball. I also like how versatile he is in terms of being able to play both 10 positions. Off the left and off the right.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was probably a little bit better in the second half, but I didn't think he was bad in the first half. Again, I thought he was wasteful with that chance, but I like
one
how
chance stands out. But you're right, he wasn't bad. It's just that he buried the chance. The game's different, so that sounds like in people's mind in particular. But you're right, he wasn't bad in the first half. He just got better in the second for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like he had that shot, before that chance. It's probably about 15 minutes in, and he starts the whole move actually because he's working hard defensively. He wins the ball, releases Munoz. The ball ends up back to him, and then he has that shot, that goes just past the post. And I think, you can already see, that he knows how to play, within our system. In terms of, where he's supposed to be picking up the ball, in between the lines, getting the ball out wide to Munoz or getting it into JP. It's already very clear. Like he seems to fit the side, like a glove already. And I think, on both sides, I think that'll be very valuable. I'm really excited to see, how he develops. I think, people can forget, how young he is already at this point. Like he's only 22.
Yeah.
A lot of attacking players, especially, more winger types, take a bit more time to develop and in terms of their end product than people might realize. They usually the greats are hitting their peaks early because that's why they're greats. But in terms of other players, like you might not see the best of him in terms of his finishing until he's about 24, 25. So I'm really excited to see how he develops with us. And I think he might not have the same sort of end product that Ebbs might have had.
Right.
But I think he brings a lot to the side that Ebbs brings, especially in terms of dribbling, which I think is really important in terms of needing a dribbler. But I also think he's probably going to get more assists than I think Ebbs would have. I think, in terms of picking up the ball and trying to play JP in. Yeah, he tried to do that a fair bit yesterday, which you could see the passes just weren't coming off. But, it's the first time he's started with JP. That kind of stuff, I think, takes a little bit of time. Yep. Exactly. So I was excited. And just one more point I want to make about him. I think in terms of Glasner's tens, I think he wants to have a 10 who's a bit more creative, a bit more the playmaker, and then have another 10 who's a bit of the finisher. So when he
And
first
that would
came
be
in,
Saab versus him. Exactly. Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, so I think people might potentially get frustrated. I hope not, but potentially down the line if the goals aren't the same way it was with Ebbs. But I think it's important to remember that when we had Ebbs and Elise was doing a lot of the creating, Ebbs was doing more of the finishing. Obviously, Elise was scoring goals as well. Um, and then
Yeah.
now, I think there's room for a dynamic where Sara is scoring most of the goals and Pino is doing the
Yep.
assisting. So I think even if he doesn't hit potentially double digits this season, I don't think that would necessarily indicate that he's having a poor season or anything. I don't think that should be the only determinant of how good of a season he has. So I just wanted to mention that bit.
It's a great point. The only thing I'll say about that is that and I agree that I think he'll definitely be much more creative than Ebbs was. If his goal drops off, and it will from Eze, we're going to need more goals from somewhere in midfield because centrally midfield they don't really score goals. Or Hughes and between Hughes, Wharton, Lerma, Kamada had one or two last year. That's where they have to pick it up. But I totally get what you're saying with that. That's a great point. Actually, we moved to talk about Kamada. Kamada, I gave him 8.5, my man of the match, and you gave him 8. I'll go first. I thought he played really well. Again, without Wharton and Ebbs in the side, there's obviously a lack of creativity, and you can't have a lack of creativity when you when you need to score a goal. Obviously, and I thought Kamada, from minute one to the end, when he was playing as the initially as the right 10, then went to the left 10 second half, and then moved into midfield. I thought it was very good. His stat wise, 23 out of 29 passing. 79%. He had two shots, both of them easily could have scored. Good saves, both by Ralphs. I think actually one might have been, one he turned by the post for corner, one was it blocked?
They
No,
were no, they both went out for corners.
right, exactly. So Ralphs
Yeah,
made
yeah.
good saves, right? 37 touches, great ball again for Pino to take that chance. 2 out of 3 echoed long balls. Defensively, only 2 out of 5 ground duels, one. Was dribble past twice. But again, I thought he was very creative. I thought he did a really good job. It's nice to see him continuing to be the player that I thought that he was when he came last season. He took a lot of stick last year. Again, had some great performances this season. I like his flexibility. He can play as a 10, preferably on the right, but he definitely is able to play in the dual role in the midfield with either Wharton, which he's played well, obviously from last year, cup final, cup semi-final, or with Hughes. So that's why I get man mad. Thought he played really well. But your thoughts on Kamada?
I thought he was excellent as well. Probably, I think he was just shaded by Lacroix in terms of my man of the match as well. I thought again, I love Daichi. I love the way that he plays. He's just a superb technician, and that ball he plays for Pino for that chance was an unbelievable ball. Perfect weight of on the pass.
Yep.
So good that Pino didn't even have to take a touch. I thought it was a wonderful ball, right into his path. And yeah, it's a shame he didn't get an assist off that, but I thought he was great. And it's good to see the player that, like you were saying, that thought we signed. I think he's been really good now for going back to to last season, the back half of last season. I think he's been really good. And I'm glad I always thought there was a player there, but and it was going to take him some time to adapt. He's played at the top level and at these bigger clubs in Germany and Italy for to eventually not translate to coming over here
Yeah.
and just need a little bit of time. And I'm glad to see that Glasner continue to trust him, which makes sense given the relationship.
He
And
knows him.
I think Daichi has fully paid that off, and I think he's great. And it's really good to see how versatile he is in terms of being able to play the 10 and not offering the same types of things, that Ebbs or Sara does, but still, being good in that role. I am excited though to see him, drop back to, the pivot role, playing deeper and it
Yep.
being able to dictate the games from there. Really looking forward to seeing, him and Wharton, which I think is Glasner's, preferred, partnership, at the base of the midfield. Having two technicians there, feeding the ball into the tens and, that getting us away. Really looking forward to, seeing that partnership again. And I thought, when he dropped a little bit deeper yesterday, I thought um, he picked up the tempo of our play. I think it was when Devetti came on for Lerma, and then he dropped deeper. I thought he was good deeper
Right.
as well. That shot that you mentioned, that the Sunderland
Top
keeper,
top left hand corner, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That came when he had come deeper, and we had picked up the pace of a play a bit. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was. I really good to see him, continue to put in these performances and especially at the start of the season and dating back to last season. So yeah, that was another really good performance from Daichi.
Yeah, I agree. Last of the starters, JP Mateta. I gave him 7, he gave him 6.5. I'll go first. He had the least amount of touches of anyone who played 90 minutes, only had 31 touches. 10 out of 11 accurate passing, so 91%. Two shots again. Uh, both of them again. One was blocked. One a brilliant reaction save by Roofs, I guess he pronounced it. That was the ball up. Munoz playing from the right. Nice combination play. I think it was involving Hughes, possibly maybe Kamara. I can't remember who got the ball out to Munoz, but great ball.
It was Hughes. Yeah, it
It
was
was
Hughes.
Hughes, right?
Mhm.
I thought he did really well. Definitely deserved to score a goal. I think what he's suffering from right now, honestly, he's just playing way too many matches. He doesn't get a rest. We need to get him
Yeah.
catching it back because he plays. You can tell by the 7th minute he just blowing, needs a rest. There's no one on the bench to come in for him. We need his ability to hold the play up. He linked the ball really well early on with some touches with Pino and Hughes. I thought he worked hard. Maybe not as hard as a 7. Maybe you're probably right around 6.5. But like I said, I thought he worked really hard. He's got the Frederick Star goal, the Community Shield goal, and the Villa goal was that 3 in 7 or 8 games, 3 in 7 games. I
Three
mean,
and seven. Yeah.
yes, every competition he scored in, he could have had a few more again. Roos was so good that he denied him, but I thought he worked really hard again. I just think he needs a bit of a rest because again he's just playing too many matches, too many minutes in the matches. But your thoughts on JP?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it'd be good to get Eddie back just to so JP doesn't have to play 90 minutes every match. It's weird because I gave him a 6.5, and I'm thinking about it now. I don't think he was that bad. I just don't think he got involved enough, to be
Yeah,
honest. But
I'm
I'm
the same.
thinking now,
I like my 7 actually. I'm gonna leave my 7. Go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think I might have to raise mine to a 7 because the ball was sticking to him nicely. Like I thought again, like the ball came into him. I thought he held it up nicely. I thought he linked the
Yeah.
play. Like there was some slick touches that as part of our attacking moves, getting us forward. Um, so it was weird. Like I was watching the match over here, and they kept mentioning that he wasn't involved, and I think that bit's right. But I don't think that necessarily means he was poor. I just think that we didn't necessarily do the best job of getting him in the game and putting him in positions to score. And I think obviously that chance he had was a great save, from the Sunderland keeper. The one late, from the Munoz cross. If that goes in, then our ratings are different, and it's 3 points, and things are different. But yeah, I didn't think he was that bad, to be honest. Like I know I gave him a 6.5, but I think it's probably closer to a 7. But I thought again, even when it's not going for him in terms of getting chances in front of goal, his link up play doesn't suffer at all. And I think
Yeah.
that part of his game is very underrated. The way he pins center backs, and the ball comes into him and it sticks, and that he can get other people into the play, and that is always there, and his work rate's always there. It would just be good, when he's blowing after about 70 minutes, to be able to bring on someone. You don't have that option right now, but looking forward, to that being, an option sometime soon.
Yeah. And credit to Nodi Mukiele, who really marked him most of the game more than Alderete. He's very physical and did a good job on JP. The credit to him. We'll move on to the subs real quickly. Justin Deveni, I gave him 6.5. So did you. You want to go first on your thoughts on Deveni?
Yeah, I'll go. I again, I've spoken about Deveni. Here, I think again his development story I think has been one of the more underrated success stories that has happened in the last 18 months at the club, or I guess closer to 12 months. But
Yeah.
um yeah, I just think he's now just a player. Like we don't even think about him having played for the 21s. Just a player now that you just, again, like I've been saying, just know what you're getting from him. When he comes on the
Yep.
pitch, he can play multiple positions, just sharp, tidy. I think he didn't do that much in terms of um changing the game yesterday, but I thought he came on with some nice little touches, some nice interplay around the box. He didn't have a shot or anything, not one that I can remember, but I thought it was a fine cameo. And I think the more important part was allowing Kamada to go deeper, while he played the 10, which I thought helped us as a whole. And I thought he was sharp and tight. He tries to get on the ball and do the best that he can to get a goal for us. So I thought it was a decent cameo.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. We gave him the same 6.5. But what I will add is that people talk about he can't play the 10. He can. He was very positive when he came yesterday. He immediately tried to link up with Munoz down the right. In fact, the last minute chance that he had was started by Deveni, because he was linking and getting himself into space in those pockets to try some flicks. Was really, really aggressive, going, getting the ball quickly forward down the right and then into Mateta. So I thought it was a very good cameo for him. Again, he's young, he's from the academy. I think that academy pathway is important so people meaning the kids below can see there is a pathway up. I think now you see Cardines might be the next one. You might see there's a pathway there. I think that's good for the kids in the 18s who are doing really well this season to see. Yep, even if Glasgow's gone, there's a pathway to the first team. So I thought he was very good. And again, he's versatile and he doesn't complain. And we need him to do something, he gets it done. But let's go to the last sub, who I think we're both most excited about. That would be Kristantis Uche. You gave him a 7.5. I gave him a 7. I'll go first. Listen, man. I love this kid's story, but seeing him yesterday, his physicality is so good. The way that he won that free kick against Xhaka, he almost won the game at the end. When to me it was a penalty. It was kicked above midfoot. It should have been called a penalty in the penalty box. It was a foul. But just really worked hard, drive the ball forward, involved from minute one that he was in there. It was 83rd minute to whatever it ended, 94, whatever. I thought he was really, really exciting. I think he can play as a 10. I'd like to see him actually in the middle because I think he'll drive the ball forward. He's very progressive as a player who has a great backstory. If you don't know it, look it up where he came from, fifth division in Spain. And then the post-match interview that he did, he just happy to be here. He said he heard the fans singing his name. It's just a wonderful story. But not only that, like I say, he looks like an exciting player. I'm looking forward to see Uche play a lot more. Again, just love the story. But your thoughts before we get to Glasner on Kristantis Uche performance?
Yeah, I love this guy already. I thought it was a very, encouraging cameo, and would like to see him get more minutes, to be honest. And I'm sure, that's coming. I expect to play a fair bit on Tuesday, I imagine, and then, perhaps a longer cameo, at the weekend, away to West Ham. But yeah, he's very exciting. His profile is generally it's just so rare. He's like 6'3", 6'4", but he's
Yeah.
so good with his feet.
Yeah.
And like
It's weird. Shouldn't
he
be like
came
that.
through playing, yeah, he came through playing as a 6, and then Getafe was playing him as a 9. We plan on playing him as a 10. Like, it's unbelievable, his versatility and his physicality and his profile. It's such has no reason being as good as it is. And how good he is, on the ball and being a dribbler, at that type of height. So yeah,
Yep.
I'm fascinated by his profile and just very excited for the player. And like you were saying, he just seems like a lovely guy.
Yeah.
Just very easily, like, you can already tell it's going to be, one of those players that, the whole fan base, falls in love with pretty quickly. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to see him. And I thought yesterday was very encouraging. I thought, had a couple of really good crosses. When he came in, there was one cross he did in stoppage time where he creates a little space and then is
And
like
then
falling
touch his
away.
right foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like the technique for the cross
Yeah.
was dangerous. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's just his technique at that size is
Amazing.
fascinating. Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see, him. I think, could be another incredible piece of business. To be fair. So really looking forward to seeing him develop, under
Yeah.
Glasner, for the season and beyond.
Yeah, I have a lot of I buy. People know you can look behind me. I have a lot of shirts, and I never put players on anymore because they end up leaving. The last player I got was probably Townsend, maybe Wilf, but I really might get a Uche number on the back of my and a name on the back of my next top because I'm a big fan of that kid. Lastly, the manager brought him in. Oliver Glasner, 8.5 for me, 8 for me. I'll let you go first. So I can wrap it up. What's your thoughts on what Glasner did as far as managing performance versus Sunderland?
Yeah, I mean, he coached 2-0, to be fair. Like, if you look at the stats, like, I think our XG was about 2. They didn't have a shot on target. I mean, he did what he was supposed to do in terms of, putting the players in, positions to perform. We just didn't take the chances, and, that happens sometimes. But I thought, on another day, this is 3 points, and we're talking about, a 2 or 3 no victory today. And, whenever the manager sets us up to have got us to a position where, that was the case, I think, again, it was another top performance by him. The only thing I would say, potentially is would have been nice to see Essay come on instead of Deveni. Not again because this is not, anything against Deveni. This is just
Right,
a bit about more just Essay being just more of a creative player than Deveni, potentially unlocking, that Sunderland defense yesterday. I think,
right.
you know, would have been interesting to see, and I would have liked to see that. But again, I thought he coached, thought he managed, a great match yesterday. And on another day, it's 3 points and a clean sheet at home, and I think we would have been in fifth or something, after that result. If we got, the 3
Yeah,
points, which is mad. So yeah, I thought, he did his job, and I thought the subs were good. I would have liked, a minor criticism is having seen
right.
that Uche cameo, giving him a little bit more time, but I don't blame him for not wanting to hook Pino. So,
Yeah,
it's hard to be too harsh. So yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you're right about that. I just popped it real quick. Those are you're right. It's 1.57 XG for us, 0.36 for Sunderland. So you're right about that. As far as Glasner, I thought he did a real good job with the lineup because the best 11 he could have possibly fielded in light of the international break, etc., was that 11. It's now 10 matches unbeaten in the Premier League as a Palace manager, first time ever, 15 overall. For the subs are good. You're right. I would like to see an essay, but I would have maybe put Devaney in midfield, maybe hook Hughes, and then put Hughes and Kamada and Deveni. I have no problem with Deveni playing, but I understand the Uche coming on when he did. I get that too. Leave Pino on. I love the fact that he did switch Kamada and Pino beginning the second half, then dropped Kamada to midfield, not understanding that need. And a couple of quotes from him before I end it. He said post-match, he feels like we deserve to win, which you just said about the XG. And the last thing was he loved the desire to win in the end of the game, like having Uche on, those guys, they wanted to win the game. It wasn't like we were selling for the draw. So I thought he did a good job again. It wasn't a 10 out of 10 because he didn't win the game, but I thought the manager did a good job as he can. Well, that's it for the play rating for Sunderland. We'll be back, I believe, soon with the Millwall preview. I think Dee's coming back soon. If not, there will be a match reaction from Millwall, and I'll be sure to drop some play ratings. We appreciate everyone's tuning in. Please, if you have comments about our ratings, if you differ, agree, disagree, doesn't matter, feel free to put your ratings in the comments below. I'll be sure to read them, and we appreciate all of your likes and subscriptions. Till next time, up the Palace.
Up the Palace.